It's a great delight for me to be back at UCT. In fact, Gareth was in my class and NASOS. That's how I got to be talking tonight, because NASOS recommended. We were in the same class doing chemical engineering. So what I say to people is that for more than 20 years, I've been working at a mineral water chemistry interface. Now I'm working at the technology, society, governance, and regulation interface. And so I'm pretty excited to be here. So mineral beneficiation is the name of my chair, and I call that adding value through minerals. There's a definition in development economics about mineral beneficiation, which is about manufacturing, whereas in mineral processing, it's about separation. So I've combined the two into this chair, and I'm going to tell you a bit about that tonight. So I've called it the role of mining in South Africa, in Africa. So we're just going to start thinking a bit. I don't know how many of you woke up this morning and thought, thank goodness for mining. I don't know if it occurred to you that without mining, we have no electricity, fossil fuels, or renewables. We need mining for that. We need mining for the manufacturing of the clothes we put on, for the buildings we live in, for medicine, for the vitamin pills, for the toothpaste. We actually need mining for every aspect of our lives. But mining is broken. We see spiraling costs, deepening pits, lower ore grades, declining productivity have let down shareholders. You heard Sita talk about the complications with mining, the difficulties technically. So we have technical difficulty. We have communities who do not trust mining, and investor uncertainty is at an all-time high. And we have finding, starting, and running a new mine is more difficult than ever before. We saw Sita's poster, and completely coincidentally, we chose the same poster, so we thought we'd leave that. But we have communities that don't want mining. But actually, even more strongly, we have Krida Mutwa, who's our Zulu spiritual leader and poet. He was born in 1921, so he's in his late 90s now. But this is what he has to say about mining. He says the land that had been taken from them, the land that was sacred to all indigenous people, the land that nourishes and nurtures, as they penetrated deep into the mother, not to sow their seeds of new life, but to rip apart the very source of connection that had fed them, their home, their patriarchal heritage. It felt like we were raping our mothers. That's a sad indictment for this country, that's how mining is seen. But on the other hand, mining is indispensable. So what is it that we can do about it? And that's why we're here. Imagine a world that communities seek to initiate mining projects because of the prosperity they bring, not stop them, initiate them. Imagine that the mining industry attracts the best talent. Imagine that mining towns become diverse economic centers with sustainable connected regions. Imagine that governments, NGOs, indigenous and religious leaders work together with miners in harmony, that we have stable security and a stronger civil society, reducing risk and improving operations. And we have a sustainable and flourishing environment able to provide the ecosystem services and sustain a healthy community. Actually, this place exists. These towns exist as we speak. And the best example is actually Kiruna in northern Sweden. And in fact, I'm sorry that Frederick, our visiting student with his parents, had to leave. He's from this area. But we have Kiruna in Lapland, in north of the Arctic Circle, that wouldn't exist if it were not for mining. It's got the world's largest iron ore mine, and it's been going since 1898. And they've actually have to move the town because of the Earth's subsidence. But everyone's working together to sustain their livelihoods. So that's probably the best example that we have. But actually we have an example in Africa. We have Silibi Pikwe, which is an island economy in Botswana. This is what it looked like in 1970, and I have Mike Solomon to thank for this photograph. He took it himself. This is what happened in 2001 after the nickel mining. And the community has sustained beyond the thriving nickel. So what we see is a sustainable development community built up around the investment of mining. We also have the Royal Bafokeng Nation in the platinum area. I recently heard Nkosi Leroux Molekile speak, and he talked about the Bafokeng having to defend their mineral rights since the 1800s from every government since then. But they've maintained their mineral rights. They own platinum mines and they own shares in platinum mines. And they've used the profits to invest in education, in sport, and in their communities. So they're the envy of many communities. So recently, we have now our modern, this is from my colleague Jenny Broadhurst's Facebook page. She's just taken our students on a tour, and of our MPhil students, they are studying sustainable mineral resource development. They've done a field tour, and they're saying from the top of the mine shaft to the crop farm to the packing house and community infrastructure, mining is no longer about digging a hole in the ground. And the Ivanhoe Platts Reef project, their social team is bigger than the mining team. So what we have is mining transforming, and what we see is the ability to benefit communities from mining transforming. So what we're seeing is a move to the circular economy. What we're seeing is that we want raw materials to go through design, production, distribution, consumption, reuse, use, reuse, and repair. We heard this talk tonight about that. And then being used again. This comes from our colleague Marcus Rutter from the Freiburg Institute of Technology. This also comes from Marcus, and this shows what we have with a geological mine and an urban mine. What we have is the mining happening, like we heard Sita talk about. We get the products being used, we see the products being used, disposed of, but retreated and going around again. What we see is the need to understand the processes in every bit of the way. So what we see is when we want to sustain our world into the world we want, we need the minerals and metals to do that. And what I'm going to talk a little bit about now is the roadmap that we have for that. So if we look at the roadmap, what is needed for us to have the minerals and metals that we need to sustain our world? We need the right research and development. We need ways of extracting the metals, both from geological mines and urban mines. We need to redefine value, as Sita talked about. It needs to be more than just economic. It needs to be value to the communities. We need to think about the multi-stakeholder model. It's not only the shareholders that need feedback and returns, but it's also the communities, the governments, the regions. But above all, we need to cultivate the workforce. And we are a part of a university, and it is about developing the leaders for the future. So my belief is that we need T-shaped professionals. We need professionals with technical, especially in engineering, they need the technical depth, but the breadth to work in teams and be able to cope with the complexity of the future. I say to the young people that we're working with that the only thing we know for sure is that the future is more complex than the past. So we really need to be able to understand and embrace it and move into that. So what are we doing here at UCT? Our minerals to metals signature theme, our vision is to build a platform for sustainable development in Africa through minerals and metals. We're doing that through UCT's 3 pillars: research, education, and engagement. Our research is innovative, integrated, and interdisciplinary. Our education is postgraduate predominantly and continuing professional development, also undergraduate. And our engagement is with government, civil society, industry, and communities. Our research themes, and we've got 5 research themes: our mineral value chains, our license to operate, strategic minerals, our value from waste, and decision support and innovation. Sid has spoken to you about our mineral value chain work. I'm going to just say a few words about our value from waste and talk about this waste, electronic waste. Is this waste or is this an opportunity? We're busy launching our UCT's urban mine. We want to work in this part of the cycle of recycling in the circular economy. So what we have is the potential to look at environmental benefit, reducing the impact of current disposable methods, reclaim the energy and resources needed to manufacture products. Economic, reclaiming the material, selling the recycled material for profit, and increasing South Africa's economic potential. Technical, looking at current technologies and integrated process for multiple recovery, increasing the technical capacity of South Africa. And social, with the job creation, awareness, and sense of responsibility that can reduce occupational health hazards. So this is in development, and I guess in future time you'll hear us talking about how we're doing it. But this is this has been put together by our master's student Zainab Sadan, but we have a team working on it, and we'll be telling you more about it in future time. So this is our research example. I'm going to talk about our education example, which is our Master of Philosophy in Sustainable Mineral Resource Development. I told you about Jenny's Facebook page. This is the group, the cohort of this year. This is our 3rd year of running it. We've had 39 students, 24 from UCT and 15 from UNZA, University of Zambia. Of them, it's a complete mixture. You can see 7 chemical engineers, 4 foresters, 2 lawyers, 6 mining engineers, 6 geologists, a geographer, a social anthropologist, social scientist, civil engineer, psychologist, mechanical engineer, 1 economist, 1 business analyst, 2 mineral processing engineers, 2 metallurgists, 1 environmental scientist, and 1 microbiologist. We found a great, this diversity of outlook. It's been very creative, and a lot of new thinkings emerged. We see we have 4 African countries: Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. And people have come from Australia and Japan, 2 Australians and 1 Japanese, 23 males, 16 females, and aging 21 to 51. So this diverse group, we believe, is creating our T-shaped professional that will be the leaders in the future. Lastly, I'm going to talk about engagement. I've just to finish. This is an example of working with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This is a picture taken at this year's Mining Indaba and a roundtable discussion, and you can see me sitting next to Gillian Davidson, who's presenting the Mining Atlas relative to the global goals. These are what our global goals are. The United Nations 17 global goals adopted in 2015. And if you look at them, they're pretty daunting. They're ambitious and aspirational and quite hard to see and engage with, but actually mining affects or is affected by every one of them. Particularly, we see number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. That is a way of mining, setting the platform for sustainable development. So we held workshops in contributing to the Mining Atlas. That was, sorry, I didn't tell you about this, that we had, there's been a mapping mining to the Sustainable Development Goals, a preliminary atlas that's been put together by the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, the UNDP, and Columbia Center. And we've contributed into that. This is the workshops that we've been doing. And one of the outputs has been some student projects, and that one of our postgraduate students is an intern at the World Economic Forum from July to November, and is preparing a document that will be tabled in Davos next year with them. So we see that the influence we're having is going beyond just internally but also globally. So in closing, I've put up this cartoon about what does the future of mining look like. It's been drawn live at the Indaba, and it captures a lot of the challenges. I want to just close with the thought of it's a complicated business, but we really need to think about the metals we use every day and where they come from and how we're going to sustain our way of life, particularly as we go into more robots, the fourth industrial revolution, and more need for metals. Where they're coming from? What about the communities? What are we doing about it? And that's really what we're working in. And we see that particularly in Africa, it's terribly important work, because on the one hand, we can contribute very well to sustainable development, but if it's not done right, it's just going to cause pain and hardship, like we've seen plenty of as well. Thank you very much.